Cool. Gents, good to see you both. We had an in-person meeting last week. We tried to record a podcast. I think it's going to be one for the archives. If Dylan, if I understand you correctly, I haven't listened to it yet, but I guess the audio is quite mumbled.
Yeah, it's really
more so than usual.
The content concerns me, so it's been deleted.
What did you say? What did you say so bad?
I don't know, talk about policy administration systems, things like that.
Somebody was giving me crap. Ray, who was on the show with us on that soon-to-be deleted podcast from K2, wonderful man. He gave some constructive feedback. One was, please turn your notifications off, you dumb fool.
Which I just noticed just went off.
Just had it go off. So Ray, that one's for you. We're just gonna keep them on.
To his advice.
Yeah. We're gonna call them the Ray alerts. Ray's watching. We had that awesome event last week, the Scout and SureTech folks. We had Chris on a couple of weeks ago, or I guess a couple months ago. We've been on hiatus, I feel like. So it's exciting to be back recording with you guys. What were your thoughts on the show? I thought it was great. Great connections and great people, run by a great crew as well.
Yeah, the whole team did such a great job of making an environment that was easy to talk to people. I just saw Chris's wrap up LinkedIn by the metrics, by the numbers post that he just did. There was a couple comments, including from one of our friends who wrote, just double in size next year and keep it moving. And Chris is having heart palpitations thinking about doubling it in size because it's a lot of work. But it's it's also, I think that 500 kind of number of participants that was there was incredibly productive because it was also the quality of the people there. So great decision makers, lots of startups. It was the right mix of people at the conference, and that makes all the difference to me.
Yep, I really enjoyed it. I did not enjoy as much the journey home, which took forever because there was quite a lot of stormy weather around the day. So it took me 26 hours door to door to get home. Which is less fun, but the conference itself was great, and I think you're right, Dylan. That kind of number of participants is perfect because you can actually you see people more than once for a start, so you can kind of have a conversation, then follow up on that, and kind of build up a bit of social rapport rather than just very kind of regimented 10-15 minute slots where it's everyone's in a massive room and loads of noise over it. So I really like the format.
Yeah. And Dylan, you streak the field, right? It's at lower.com field. I saw you running around being escorted off by police.
Yeah, a couple of free drinks later, it happens.
Remember what they said, Ron Rock's organization, they make money for each drink that's sold, right? Exactly. Each hard liquor drink. And you were just supporting the cause.
I was just helping Ohio job growth as well.
Did Ron come and bail you out?
Yeah, definitely. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
And then we went out to the pubs later. So it was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah.
Do you say lower.com field or loro.com?
It was Loro. Yeah. Actually, next year.
For everyone listening, we're loro.io, just to clarify.
We should bring some signage. We should bring some signage to hang over the placard, the loro.com. Yeah.
So in our terrible recording while at the lower.com field, we took over one of the boxes that would normally be for viewing soccer. And we determined we didn't know what Loro. I said Loro there. Sorry. Good job, Peter. Well done.
Who knows what that is?
Lower.com. I never did look it up. We were confused when we were recording then. Still don't know what lower.com is.
It's going to have something to do with mortgages, right?
Jamie, can you look that up for us?
Yeah. Bring out that video.
And then we were in one of those boxes, and I have no clue what that company did either. I don't even remember what the name of that company was.
Yeah. Very memorable for you, Dylan.
Ron Rock, man, you got to get these companies out there.
We should say we also had our good friend Alex Bond on that that ill-fated recording of a podcast.
Yeah.
It's too bad. You know what? Maybe should we do a dub over? We'll use the video and do a dub over.
3000 type of style. Is that what
Yeah, this could be fun. All right. All content's good content, right, Dylan? That's what somebody told me. And so we'll keep it.
That make you unemployable.
All right. Well, why don't we get to our guest?
Yes.
We've meandered on long enough. Listen, today we have. I'm excited for this one. This guy, he's held a number of different roles at very large insurers, and now he's working on. I didn't realize how big they are and how quickly they're growing, but probably the premier parametric insurer, not only here in the US, but I think they have some international happenings as well. And so this guy's going to come on and tell us about how he's running things, whipping the company into shape. I think it's still a startup, like technically, but bigger than any startup I've ever been a part of. So we have Samuel Broomer on from NormanMax, and he's going to join us in just a minute and tell us about all the great things that he's working on.
Yeah, it's great.
Sam, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Hey, fabulous. Good to see you, Doug.
Yeah. So we had the pleasure of seeing you last week. All of us were in person together at InsurTech Scout. And then we got this book. I think we've had this book for a while, so been excited to chat with you about what you're working on. But why don't I'd love to hear just about your background to start with and kind of what led you into getting involved at NormanMax.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to do it. So, it's one of those things. I left undergraduate school. I didn't have a career, needed to find something. Parents had to pull the plug on my apartment in Newport, Rhode Island, excuse me, and needed to find something to make happen. So kind of fell into the reinsurance business and absolutely fell in love with it, actually. It's just an amazing opportunity to do so many good things with great people around the country. So it's what I've been doing for the last 32 years. Great organizations like HSB Group, FM Global, spent some great time at WO Berkeley. And it was really during that time when I was heading up innovation and strategy for the organization, and I got really close with some folks in the venture capital community, with some fintech and insurtech organizations, and felt there was a real opportunity to maybe do something different, unique, and a bit more contributory to some of the work I might have been doing historically. So I kind of fell in love with the MGA model, developed the thesis around the availability and affordability of insurance relative to tech and climate. We know that climate is a disruptor. Of course, we're together here talking about tech as well, so we know that's a great enabler. And really the availability and affordability getting to the gap, this widening economic loss gap relative to insured. And I felt that there was a real opportunity to take parametric products, which are pretty bespoke and thoughtful. You typically see them in agrarian communities, part of non-governmental entities, the United Nations, helping empower people around the globe, typically around agriculture. And then you look at the business really in the Fortune 1000 multinational, transnational space, where it's helping very large companies around these weather events. And for us in my MGA at NormanMax Insurance Solutions, it's wind, quake, and flood. But I felt there's a real opportunity to take these products and make them more mainstream, to go where the eyeballs are today, the network effects and the attraction. So we know in the traditional space, homeowners and commercial, that there is opportunities that have been afforded in the past where organizations have worked with carriers to create enhancement endorsement solutions, right? Kind of like the HSB model. It gives a carrier rates, rules, forms, marketing support, training, loss adjustment, 100% quota share reinsurance, and does so across their platform for a specific line of business. You've all seen that with equipment breakdown. You've seen it with cyber liability, as well as with employment practices liability. Well, what I want to do is actually take these bespoke kind of agrarian products and very thoughtful kind of Fortune 1000 products around parametric and turn these products into features and offer these features via enhancement endorsement to traditional homeowners policies and traditional commercial property policies. So the MGA is the best place to do that. With our Lloyd's of London backing, we have great flexibility and rigidity in our balance sheet. And we're just getting started making amazing inroads working with other insurance organizations. And as we'll probably talk about today, the whole MGA space, in my opinion, does an amazingly good job of empowering traditional carriers with thoughtful new risk opportunities. And certainly I believe that's the case with parametric, which is what I'm focused on today. So excited to learn from you, share some perspective, and we'll all walk away a bit smarter, hopefully still smiling at the end of the conversation.
Well, definitely be smiling. I usually don't get smarter, but I'll try. And actually, speaking to you, Sam, I think that I will.
Oh boy.
I love this.
the real thing where we have some room to grow is our dress here. Sam, you're probably not only the best dressed on this podcast by far.
I think everywhere we go, yeah.
Yeah, when seeing you out at Scout, I was like, man, this guy is the best dressed at the entire event. So we probably need to talk to whoever you've got going on there to teach us a thing or two.
The Sam's tailor.
Introduce us to your tailor, please. Sam, you're talking about parametric to, so I mean, mostly personal lines or maybe like the homeowners, maybe auto, maybe there's some things that you're working on in the auto space. But I know that this isn't just a US thing. And even though what you started talking about was these are typically, I guess, more like developing country type products. But you guys are operating in the US now and maybe internationally as well. But the focus really is on the US space today, right?
Yeah, we have two parts of our business. We're a global organization. NormanMax Insurance Solutions is the MGA in Miami. And we are the only Lloyd syndicate, NormanMax 3939, that is also focused on these event-based products from a parametric perspective. So the business that we write out of our London operation advantages the Lloyd's licensing. Think about 200 countries, think about 200 territories, 80 countries, 8+15. That is a very, very large account business, and we do a lot of that business today. Sophisticated risk managers and sophisticated parametric brokers. We're talking about very large organizations that are part of Caribbean islands or part of very large nation states, or actually working for certain nation states, helping with some of the perils that they have. We know something just came through Mexico recently, so they're having a challenge today with some wind, but they also have some flood considerations as well. So we do have that international component to our business. In the States, written through our MGA, we also work with wholesalers and retailers. We do so with Flood via our Flood Flash capability, which was an accretive acquisition we made recently from this organization in the UK. Adam and Ian, of course, and their great team are now part of our organization. And we have this wind, and we have obviously a quake capability as well. That is being done in the retail and wholesale space. Really, the opportunities, as I see it, are opportunistic reinsurance structures. So think about a carrier that has a catastrophic reinsurance program, a NatCat program. Most of these renew 6/1, 7/1, if you will. So where we can help from a parametric perspective is we can help with events that happen within the retention of an insurance company, ventilation within their tower, meaning they're coming back in on risk actually as the losses grow based on an event. That carrier is now assuming some of that risk in the middle of their tower. And then third and fourth event covers as well. In the past, you would think like, well, why do you need a third or fourth event cover from a NatCat perspective? We saw just last year what took place in Florida, where you had 2 hurricanes go through in a very small amount of time. Yeah. So there were folks that were actually thinking about those considerations and were strapped from that perspective. And not just in the Florida market, but also in the New England market as well. Northeast wind, obviously, is something to be thoughtful in that regard. The other part of the business, which I'm most excited about, and this is a domestic business, Doug, to your point, is taking these products and converting them into features. So working with carriers to provide an enhancement endorsement to a homeowner's policy. And we're doing that as an MGA with 100% of that risk going to our syndicate. What that means is that we can provide a low limit or a limit of coverage for a very reasonable price. So I typically use an example of $10,000 of coverage, 2.5% rate online gives you a premium of $250. And let's work with an organization that has 500,000 policyholders that are exposed to an event. If you were to do that on an opt-out basis, that's a $125 million opportunity. The unlock for the insured is as rates have gone up and terms and conditions have become compressed, or sublimits have been introduced, or exclusions have been strengthened, deductibles have also moved up at that same point in time. So we are a zero-deductible solution based upon an event, not based upon a insured exposure. So if that event does in fact trigger, there's a payout that takes place, and the insured gets paid very, very quickly. We think that could help with customer satisfaction, attention, attraction, and maybe even quell some of the reactive negative sentiment in the business when losses are not settled exactly as expected. So that's the unlock on the personal line side here in the US. On the commercial line side, the unlock probably is in the middle market. So not the digital kind of quick flow business, not the kind of large account sophisticated business. That's all already being handled in the parametric markets today. I'm talking about an unlock in the middle market space where you could provide a measure of limit for a reasonable premium. And although you are bringing in untransferred risk, the real opportunity for that space is business interruption and extra expense, or contingent business interruption without physical loss or damage. So think about what happened at Maui for a moment, a very sad event when the wildfires went through. Hotels might have been relatively okay, but they had economic loss, which was very, very large. First part is the returning receipts, because people are not coming to the island during that period of time. So they have a revenue outflow from historical bookings. New bookings have also slowed because it's a very difficult place to be at this point in time, or at that point in time. And then really think about the hotel as a place of refuge. They had so many folks coming to the hotels at that point in time, but unfortunately the help wasn't there to do the job, if you will. These employees live on the island. They're going through the same considerations and hardship as everybody else. So either their mind or physically, they were elsewhere during that time when capacity was at 100 or 125%. And then finally, in this example, because you're on an island, supply chains become disrupted. So unless the hotel had physical loss or damage, or they had separate BI extra expense cover, they did not have a recovery for that event. So that's the other unlock here, if you will, on the commercial line side, helping this widening gap between economic loss associated with BI and extra expense relative to insured losses. Bringing parametric from products into features as an MGA in the country solves for that challenge, and does so very, very nicely.
Yeah, I love that concept of products into features, because I think a lot of times MGAs maybe try to go it alone. And this has definitely been changing, but this idea of we are competing against other products. And I think what I'm hearing from you is you're really trying to partner with the kind of the standard products that are out there. You're enhancing that coverage, and you're using that as a distribution mechanism, because instead of you having to go out and find all of those brokers to sell this product, it's a nice tool in the toolkit for a carrier to push down to their already established broker force and allow them to sell your product for you without hopefully much effort, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think that's right, Doug. I don't view any of that as competitive. I see it's a real opportunity to enlarge the pie. We even have great conversations with folks that are in competing markets within the parametric space. There's always opportunities for partnership to enhance one another's position. I think education is really important as well. One of the things I want to do if I'm successful in this business, and I know we will be working together with a great team in a great ecosystem that we all share a space in, is moving away from the term parametric, because I think it denotes something that it's really not. At one point in time, it was very much a sophisticated mathematical model. And from a modeling perspective, in fact, that is in fact the case. But if you're going to bring this to the mass market and help improve these indemnity products, there needs to be a better way to look at these solutions. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been good. It's got some good traction, and I'm excited to be a small part of what is something very, very large and on the come.
So
yeah, that's amazing.
Sam, that was incredible, and I'd love to dig into what you just said about the use of parametric. And what happens is a lot of people who have been insurance, and there's massive number of people, even if they're in P&C insurance, they hear parametric during their CPCU courses, and that's about the extent of what they talk about with parametric. They don't know anything about it. They have this concept that there's some kind of trigger, and then the claims process should hopefully be more streamlined. And that's when I think of parametric, that's usually what I'm thinking about. Can you describe what that process looks like? So let's go down to the personal lines side of it first, because really I have a few different products there. And talk about what it looks like standalone versus what it looks like as that complementary product and or really feature, right? And how that I don't normally get into claims until much later, but really I think those things are very tied in with this product, and I think you can't talk about one without the other. So when an individual gets this as a standalone product, my understanding is you are selling this as a standalone product. as well. What does that process look like for them? They purchase this through you, through only through brokerage? Anything? Is it direct ever with you?
No, everything we do is at the wholesale or retail level of brokerage. That's really important, and it's part of our construct in our Woods of London facility. So no direct to consumer in what we do. I guess, what I would say is that there are pretty big differences between standalone bespoke products relative to what I see as an enhancement endorsement feature to a traditional homeowners or commercial property policy. I would even further delineate it by event. So there is like mass customization that takes place in our flood capability. And in our flood capability, which is branded Flood Flash, we have an IoT sensor that is specifically designed to work at that location. Like, we know a lot about that specific location scientifically. We know what's occurred. We've done the modeling. We can develop a solution for them. And it could be a staged model where you have indexing. Like, if the flood water reaches X, you get Y. And as that flood water continues to move up, the index continues to pay more of the aggregate limit. So that's very thoughtful, if you will, because it's solving a real bespoke challenge at that residence premises or at that insured location from a commercial lines perspective. So that underwriting typically is bespoke, very thoughtful to that one individual. The same can be said for a wind product as well. One of the things we want to make sure we do, if that an event has occurred, the coverage has been triggered, that if there is loss, we're making sure there are claim payments that take place. It's sometimes called basis risk, meaning you have loss or damage, but you don't have a recovery because the event did not trigger. So really important for us, whether it's a standalone product or if it's something we're going to do via enhancement endorsement as a feature, that we've designed them in a way that maximizes the payout opportunity for the end insured. So I'll give you an example of wind in that regard. And this would be true whether it's done on a standalone basis or done as an embedded solution. And I'll talk about quake in that regard as well in a moment. On the wind side, we actually have 3 opportunities for a trigger. So we have a series of hurricane-hardened anemometers that are dotted from the Texas coast up to Maine. So the closest anemometer relative to your location potentially could provide a payout. We also have cat in a shape, either a polygon or a circle, that basically moves with the storm path. So as that storm path moves and you have this 15-mile radius around your specific location, if there is a 60-second sustained wind speed of, let's say, 64 miles an hour, then in fact that policy is triggered, typically done through an index, meaning that the more fierce the wind is, the higher the payment is. Now, as a feature that goes away, it becomes more binary. Did it happen or did it not happen? If it did happen, there is in fact a payment. And then in addition to that, we work with Moody's and their RMS H wind product, which is a synthetic wind offering that's basically is a collection of multiple data points that determines whether or not that coverage was or was not triggered. So the insured has the ability to pick the highest of the 3. There's an outward notification process that takes place indicating, hey, your policy may have been triggered. There is a notice of loss process, and that's important in the US because to be regulated as an insurance entity, and as we are with our Woods of London affiliation and ownership of our syndicate, that notice of loss is very important. It's a one-way notice of loss that loss has occurred and a payment will in fact ensue. Without that notice of loss process, we become a derivative, registered and regulated, if you will, as a financial entity. So we want to have that insurance piece, which is why the notice of loss is important, which follows a very, very quick payment. So moving these products into features, right? I think it needs to be simple to understand. I think the language needs to be clear and concise. It probably starts off in the E&S space before it moves to the admitted space. But having a short limit that is binary, did it happen or did it not happen? Having the ability to notify and pay claims very quickly based upon the loss notice that's received is important. That's number one. That's going to help with the availability and adoptability. I think you could also look at this coverage from a community perspective as well. And when you talk about communities, you could be thinking about employee benefits. You could be thinking about places of public assembly or governments. There are a variety of ways to embed this solution into very thoughtful customer journeys. Most of them today are related to insurance, But I can see a world once we move past that where parametric as a feature moves into brands that are not connected to an insurance purchase, where it just strengthens the brand loyalty, does what's expected of that brand, and helps in that regard. From a Quake perspective, if you're going to do something on a embedded basis, it probably is community based. So think about California from a community perspective. You can chunk it up into maybe 25 different communities. And if the ground shakes at a 7.5 within that territory and you're in that territory, then you receive this binary payout. What's really important is that the data sources are immutable, they're transparent, and most importantly, they're done by third parties. That'll also continue from a product into a feature as well. So I think, you know, there is portfolio underwriting on the embedded piece where you're looking at the entire portfolio and as it rolls on over a period of time. I think on the traditional side, you're doing things much more bespokely. But that's the journey that we're on. That's the process and where we are today. So much to talk about the nuance of the product and the underwriting and the certainty associated with it, and then creating that adoptability and affordability at the insured level via these embedded solutions that have to really be simple and understood. That is a big gap to bridge. And I'm excited to be working with some good national carriers to begin that conversation about how do we make that happen.
So I am hearing a lot of complexity. I mean, I think the saying is like the simpler, at least on the face to the consumer, you know, the more complexity that went into it, the more thought that had to go into it to building and making that process simple. How are you guys doing all of this? Because maybe we can take a step back and just talk about NormanMax's history and the start of it, because I think that's really interesting. The typical MGA, I think that might be listening, or somebody who's about to start that journey, I don't think they're going to see the growth. They hope they see the growth that you guys have had. You're already doing an acquisition. You talked about FootBase. How did it all get started, and how did you put the team together of very smart people that are kind of finding the right data sources to build this, building the products, getting carriers to back it, getting the Lloyd syndicate? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that story.
Yeah, very thoughtful for sure. I think, you know, there's some measure of preparation, probably some measurement of luck, and of course, externalities, kind of what's happening around you in the world at that point in time, which comes together kind of in this perfect storm, to use maybe a bad analogy of, you know, product market fit, and in this case, timing as well. So the organization was founded by Brad Meyer. Brad Meyer was the founder, chairman, and CEO of an insurance company in Florida. That company was Universal Property and Casualty Insurance Company. It's still in existence today, of course. That company grew to be the largest insurance company in Florida for homeowners behind Citizens at one point in time. So very successful startup and very successful runway and organization today. Brad saw a real opportunity with what was happening with wind in Florida to actually look at the business in a different way. And I guess it was probably, you know, don't quote me here, 6 to 8 years ago that Brad decided to form an MGU. And he had some very thoughtful partners in doing that, including some capacity providers, both on the paper and also reinsurance side. Some amazing brands in which you'll know today and are very, very thoughtful, carry good reputation, and have done great work in our community in the past. NormanMax is the successor organization of that organization. So the MGU became NormanMax. All those assets were purchased by the current leadership team of that organization, very small cap table, very thoughtful for who's engaged. And this group now is continuing forward kind of as a quote unquote full stack carrier. And I say full stack because it is an MGA here in the US of which I work. But at the same point in time, it's the capacity of our own syndicate and our active underwriter, which is making this business come alive, which is great. I've referred to it before as the rigidity and flexibility of a balance sheet. It is, in fact, our syndication, our syndicate manager, our active underwriter, where we have that within our organization where they stand behind us. But we also have the ability to syndicate around us as well. That's the beauty of the Lloyd's market. You can bring in bespoke capital for bespoke opportunity. And we can also probably do that here in the States as well. So as our business grows, so will our capital base. I can envision a point in time when the embedded business is a multi-billion-dollar business. So I gave an example before on the homeowner side where you are embedding a solution within a homeowner's product, 500,000 policies, $250, you have a $125 million opportunity, which could be accretive from a reinsurance brokerage perspective. It's obviously P&L accretive for the insurance company, helps with their agency relationships, attraction and retention, customer satisfaction, and offering quicker payments. But Doug, if you were to do that 20 more times at that same level, you have a $2.5 billion company. So this has been done before. I've worked very thoughtful with great folks at HSB and FM Global, where we've done just, in fact, that. So there is a path to make those things happen. So I might have went off on a tangent there, actually. Did I hit the salient point you were looking for, or did I miss it?
No. You did. I mean, I think it's the people. I love your background, right? Because you came from very stable insurance companies who, to your point, like Borno is, right? They did this process over and over and over again. You're now doing this process over and over and over again at NormanMax and creating that, that $1 billion opportunity. The person who's in your shoes where you were 3, 4, 5 years ago, I think it's like showing them like you can make this leap. There is an accepted community out there willing to work on these things, and even more so, it's not that we don't want outsiders to come in. We love all of our tech bros that have joined, and or the McKinsey consultants that are starting MGAs now. But find your Sam Broomer out there. That's done this over and over again, or you being the underwriter or the innovation lead, whomever you are right now, take the step out, start thinking about the entrepreneurial journey, because I think NormanMax is a great example of having the right people together, the right investors together, and having a ton of success, very relatively quickly. You guys have really blown up in a good way over the last couple of years or so.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's what I mentioned a little bit before. The externality is kind of right time, right place, if you will. The MGA marketplace, the MGU marketplace really has taken off in the last 5 years. There's been a hyper explosion, in my opinion, of thoughtful folks that are both in the industry and outside of the industry, solving new opportunistic challenges. And I gravitate towards the insurtech piece because that's where I spent a lot of my time historically when I was spending time around innovation and strategy. But that has moved, and this is probably coining a term from David Gritz at InsurTech New York, where that group has moved from disruption to enablement, where I see them today, which is more R&D, kind of research and development. Like these types of things happen within MGAs today. Cutting edge, bleeding edge, a new way to look at a current challenge is happening at the MGA level. I tend to think that carriers have kind of thicker paintbrushes, right? Like it's binary. Like we're expert in this, we're going to continue to do it, and we're not going to waver from it. Or, geez, the external marketplace has changed pretty radically. I'm not sure that I fully understand the implications of that to my P&L and my balance sheet. So I'm going to make a decision, and those decisions are typically very broad brushed. You saw that maybe with some of the activities around wildfire. You might have seen that historically with inland river flooding. Yeah. Those are opportunities that MGAs are picking up on. So through technology, through experience, both in and outside of the insurance industry, the MGA is the igniter, in my opinion. It is the place to have an entrepreneurial spirit, solve new opportunities, whether they're known, unknown, or unknown. These opportunities are all happening kind of in the MGA space. So it gives carriers the opportunity to experiment, to do so without very large investment or risk, and find folks that are doing things in a new and novel way and can scale a business and do so very profitably. We are doing that today at NormanMax, both in our traditional standalone business, in partnership with our wholesale and retail partners globally. And then we're also going to be making these things happen on the embedded side. So real opportunity working with reinsurance brokers to create new profit pools, bring new fresh value to carriers, and carriers to do the same thing with the benefit of their distribution platform, for the benefit of their ultimate insureds, and finding ways to actually increase the positive sentiment of our industry, where we're doing something new and novel and also thoughtful and profitable to make sure we can bring in more people to these opportunities to cover them in their time of need. And I think we can all maybe agree to some extent there is more of a frequency and severity of events. You can have a great discussion as to why that may be the case, but we are in fact all dealing with that at this point in time. So the work is thoughtful, noble, and a lot of fun. And I think the MGA is the best place to express that. So if you're not having that same feeling with what you're doing today, no matter what you're doing, the MGA space might be something to further explore. I think it's wonderful, and I'm very lucky to be in it.
What about at NormanMax? Should these underwriters, maybe we should be pushing them your way, saying, you got a new idea on the parametric side, don't go out on your own, come incubate it at NormanMax? Are you guys doing anything like that right now, or everything's kind of internally being done?
No, there's always opportunities to grow. I envision building out an entire vertical of great talented people to help with our embedded business, to service that business, to make sure that we're in close within our communities, that we have abilities to be face-to-face. I think it's wonderful we're all here together today on a screen, and we typically spend a lot of our day actually doing these types of conversations with folks, either bespokely or part of larger groups like we have here. At the same point in time, being close to where your customers are, being engaged with them in their communities and with their families is very, very important. So we're going to do just that at NormanMax. We're going to expand our team. Embedded is the place that's going to really be ignited. So always looking for fresh new talent to help us with our current vertical and to help build out this embedded business. I can assure you my success in embedded in the past isn't because of me. It's because of the people we've surrounded ourselves with, the people we worked with, and the opportunities that have been afforded. So that is going to continue to be the case with the businesses we're in. We also will be building out some additional capabilities. I think there's amazing opportunity for other IoT considerations with some of our current event-based products. I think there's opportunities to combine solutions that are in the marketplace today, maybe bespokely, but where you potentially could do something with storm surge relative to wind. Florida had some considerations in that regard last year, where wind policies might not have been triggered, but you had real damage through storm surge. I think of Tampa as an example where that occurred. So there might be opportunities to have folks help us understand that. And then in our Lloyd's plan for 25-26, we're also thinking about doing hail on an international basis. We think there's huge opportunity within the central part of the country for open dealer lot, other outdoor exposed property. We think there's great opportunities to take these bespoke products, turn them into features in very bespoke areas. Ocean Marine, it's probably this only CPCU associate course that I couldn't pass. I've taken a lot of them over my years, but Ocean Marine, man, that's a tough one. So having somebody help us understand how to create features within the Ocean Marine spot is going to happen because of the talent we bring in, but also it's happening now with the people we're working with, those experts in that business at the carrier level, and those reinsurance brokers who also focus on that space as well. And then finally, severe convective storm is a bit of a challenge, but that too is something we're thinking about looking at in a measured way. So having the right people with the right backgrounds, knowledge of these events, the good mix of technology, but also folks who understand how the insurance business operates will all be talent that we'll be looking for. So Doug, that was a very, very long way of saying yes.
Yeah, reach out.
Please do give people already.
I am going to dust off my resume. I do none of those things, but you can throw it in the bin. At least I did my part.
I'd love to get into some of the Lloyd stuff though when we start.
Yeah, let's. So Peter had some Lloyd's questions. And actually, I want to talk about, maybe if we have time, just kind of your thoughts on tech as well, Sam. But let's dive into Lloyd's.
Yeah, look, it's really interesting, Sam, because I'm sitting here today in the Lloyd's building, as you maybe guessed from the back. And I know you mentioned in this, and it's really fascinating to hear the many plans that you've got. I've got one quick question and one longer question. So the quick question: as NormanMax MGA, do you get capacity from anywhere else or exclusively with your syndicate?
Yeah, today NormanMax, our MGA, is exclusive to our syndicate at this point in time. We certainly have the availability to bring on additional capital, alternative capital within the organization. But today, all of our paper, all of our reinsurance, all of our capacity is run through our Lloyd's facility. Like most growing organizations, as we grow, we'll continue to expand that footprint. We believe it's an amazing one with a great group of people, an amazing brand, and excellent financial security. So that will only continue to grow as we grow. At the same point in time, as we bring on more risk and have bespoke opportunity, weather does have a tendency to accumulate, and everyone has a bucket from an ag perspective that gets filled up at some point in time. So, finding diversified capital to grow as we grow is going to be very, very important. and creating that balance between what do we need today and what do we think we're going to need tomorrow, without necessarily disappointing applications that people give us, is a very thoughtful path to tend, if you will. So there is, in fact, that piece to it. Lloyd's has been super interesting. And I think this is one of those pieces where I think timing is in our favor. And frankly, in the favor of MGAs and MGUs listening to this conversation today as well. So if you are building something and you're looking for capacity, I don't think there's ever been a time of greater innovation and reflection and openness to alternative ways of looking at doing things than there is today within the Lloyd's market. You see that through the Innovation Lab. The activity that's coming through the Innovation Lab is just amazingly positive. I never thought I would say this, but I know 4 people right now that are in the Innovation Lab. They are MGAs, and that's just as crazy to me. So the support they're giving to that conversation is really top notch. There are a couple of folks that are putting together accelerators, labs, really, really thoughtful, right? We know who some of those are here in the States. The work Lloyd's is doing is just exceptional. So as we went through our application process to become a syndicate within Lloyd's, it was one of encouragement, thoughtfulness, resources that were brought to us to be successful. Like, they want you to make this happen. So that's a really strong message to MGAs that are building today. If you can find a way into the Lloyd's lab, that's very thoughtful. It puts you in the marketplace, Peter, you're there today, in that marketplace where you have all this great intellectual property thought around you, support. I couldn't think of a better way to do things. So love the Lloyd's facility, look to grow it, and then look to grow our business internationally as well, and see what partners want to join us on that as well. I have also fully expected, as we're successful in this embedded piece, working with sophisticated, thoughtful national carriers, there'll be opportunity to share risk in that perspective as well, either bespoke to the work we're doing with and for them, or within the NormanMax platform overall. So certainly stay tuned if you have an interest in learning more about that. I'm just beginning those type of conversations in the marketplace now as well.
Yeah, that's amazing, Sam. And we as Lotto went through that accelerator program in Lloyd's lab, so I can add that it's an amazing experience to do. Absolutely. That you kind of answered a lot of my follow-up question, but the one thing I'm interested in, you're doing a lot of projects, you're committing a lot of capital across a lot of catastrophic type events. There's obviously a lot of kind of onerous procedure to that, right? You've got to go through some heavy business plan discussions with Lloyd's and commitment of capital and all these things that go into it. How difficult can those conversations be in line with some of the amazing commercial objectives that you have running almost, in parallel to that? And how does that go? How do those discussions happen at an organization like NormanMax?
Yeah, that's an amazingly good question, Peter. I think it's really important, and as you all know, surround yourself with those people that are just well aligned with what you're trying to achieve and can bring real strategic value to a conversation. So there is the capital piece associated with it, but maybe as importantly, who strategically can help you in your business and help you grow. So we're talking with a number of folks in that regard that just don't have the capital, but have 4 or 5 or 6 different ways to help us win within our current business plan. So it's about talking about where we are, what the journey looks like, that first journey, getting to the first mountaintop, and then where do we move forward from there. But it's also providing the confidence that it's not just the vision, but it's actually something we're also executing as well. So bringing on clients into the embedded space, doing the work in the reinsurance space, finding ways to continue to grow our wholesale and retail traditional transactional business, while at the same point in time providing the revenue and new profit pools that are going to allow us to invest in the technology to move a portion of the company from a transactional kind of high premium, low frequency business into a low premium, high frequency business from a technology perspective. So, showing that vision, having the confidence around that is very important. I think the difficulty level of the conversation really just depends upon the persona and what that person, he or she, is looking to achieve through a potential either integration, partnership, investment. So being open and listening, right? Having good reflective listening skills is very, very important. Talking about solving a real problem, a problem people have today and are trying to find ways to solve, but maybe you're not doing so in an exceptional way, or maybe not able to solve it all, but they recognize they have it, and then finding ways to solve those challenges, coming to the table with solutions as opposed to products. One of the things I think MGAs do very well is they have a perspective of the demand, right? I think on the insurance side, too often we think, we're the experts, we know exactly what you need. Here's what we're going to build and do with and for you. And that's the story we're going to sell to our partners and investors. And then we wonder if it doesn't occur to the extent we thought it would, why that was the case. So the MGA space, and also, working with these communities of investors, capital providers, it's really understanding and having a conversation about what does the demand look like. Looking from the outside in, as opposed to looking from the inside out, I think helps those conversations, bringing those folks on board to raise that capital, to bring on the additional capacity, where there is a track record of trust. They can see the vision. The vision is actually being executed upon. And being a good listener to the conversation, I think really helps in progressing those conversations. That's been my experience to date, working in the investment banking community, working with some private equity folks, working on the capacity side, very thoughtful reinsurance brokers. That's tend to work well for me today and work well historically in my career. But there inevitably are going to be difficult decisions, difficult conversations. And I think that's okay as well. I appreciate the positive discourse that leads to a good outcome, and maybe an outcome that I otherwise wouldn't have thought of. I tend to challenge everybody I speak with from a partnership perspective, like, this is my vision, this is what I want to achieve, this is what I'm executing with this organization. What could it look like for us? Or maybe what's wrong with this? Why is this a bad idea? Is there a better way to move forward? Again, another opportunity from a capital and also MGA perspective is the availability to pivot and recognize that just because we say it's going to go in a certain direction, that if it doesn't, that we have the resiliency and the leadership fortitude to recognize that and move forward in a more positive way. So being humble enough to say, this is what it's going to be, this is what we're doing, this is the journey and partnership we want to go on together. But if it doesn't work, we have the confidence in one another that we continue to pivot and make a good outcome happen from maybe what's a more difficult conversation. So
that
a lot of challenges yet, but I'm looking forward to receiving them because as Dalio used to say, I think it was pain equals progress, right? So The more pain you feel, the better you'll be through that process. So looking at that as a positive opportunity, if you will, Peter.
That can be hard for insurance folks, I'm wrong on this, or here's some variables, right? And hopefully it's one of these 8 things, but it actually ends up being the 9th, and so you're off and having to pivot, which is very typical for startups, but maybe less so for the insurance folks who are used to more rigidity. Sam, I'd love to chat about the tech. You mentioned tech a little bit, and I think just having to, the high frequency, low premium products that you guys are building, there has to be some operational background going there to make everything efficient. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you guys are building kind of the standard things that you need, but then also the data sources. It sounds like you're plugging into third-party data sources for the most part, although I know part of your acquisition, right, was some of the tech that they had built to do some of that measuring. So love to maybe high level the tech strategy, and then whatever you're comfortable talking about, how you guys are making this work.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the requirements before we got started in issuing policies with our Lloyd's of London facility was that we had the appropriate tech that would support our business plan in the organization for that number of X years from that point forward. So we've achieved that from a tech platform today. We are a transactional organization. We have really 2 paths. One of them is an international path. The other one is a domestic path. And there may be 2 paths domestically. So the international path is sophisticated Lloyd's brokers working with sophisticated risk managers or countries to write bespoke parametric solutions. We're actually developing something unique with and for them. So those modeling capabilities, both internally and externally, are resident within our technology. And that underwriting platform allows for that business to be transacted and done so where we issue those policies. On the domestic side, we do exactly the same thing, but we also have a portal as well that's API enabled. So we're able to plug into other ecosystems and provide parametric solutions where the customers already are today in their customer journeys. That is available in the US at this point in time. Those are transactions, not portfolio underwritten products. And I might actually just back up a moment from that and say the reinsurance piece from a technology perspective is much, much easier because it's more of a balance sheet item than it is a customer journey being done with sophisticated buyers in the ceded or corporate risk management department relative to end consumers through retail or wholesale brokers. The build that we're working on today and beginning to spec out speaks to that conversion, where we can utilize technology to both in our middle part of our business, but also our back office as well. And the back office is going to be really important for us because when we have a large number of insureds that come to us through these other carriers, we want to make sure we're able to communicate through the customer, our carrier, the cedant, to give them the content they need or to empower us directly on their behalf as a white label for them to make sure their customers know, hey, an event is coming or an event has occurred, or you need to think about doing X, Y, and Z before this takes place, or we believe a loss was actually triggered, and here's the process you need to go through, right? So when you're doing things bespokely for very large accounts, it's very easy to do in a technology-light environment. But when you're doing it in mass in support of large institutions and brands, really important that that technology is resident and tested within the organization. So the way we're doing that is we're utilizing our existing products and bringing them through new distribution channels, strengthening our relationships with our wholesalers and retailers, finding new ways to engage in the marketplace. So whether it's a agency quoting platform, a ecosystem, a digitally enabled marketplace, we're looking to do more of that business, which is creating the profit pools, which we're utilizing to fund the transition of the company into this portfolio organization. We also are being cautious in that regard. So we're doing this in partnership with others. We are not building everything bespokely internally to do that. We think the partnership model gives us an opportunity to help us through that process, to have the flexibility to pivot if and when we need. And we've actually done that to good advantage working with Manage My. They helped us with our portal. Josh did a great job with and for us. So that model has worked for us for that small portion of our business. And I believe a partnership model on the technology side, whether that be consultancy or actual engagement, will continue to be very, very important. But I also recognize that all of my success in the past has been through other people and through partnership and helping others in a very sincere way. So I want to make sure that as I'm building technology to support this business, that I'm involving my carrier partners in the conversation as well. So I want to make sure that as I'm having conversations with 4 of the top 10 brands you'll know in the US from a P&C perspective, that they too are helping me understand what technologies will best enable what they're looking for from a proactive and reactive support perspective. So it is a journey we're just getting started on. I joined the organization, what's the date today? An amazing date today. Today is June 24th. It is exactly 120 days since I joined the organization.
Oh, wow, congratulations.
And I won't give you the date, but it also happened to be my birthday, the day that I joined NormanMax. So it was like a doubly special day in my home that day. Like the kids were excited, I was excited, my wife was excited. But yeah, it's been a great journey. So yeah, you're catching me 120 days in. Ton of progress has been made since that point in time, and really now getting a hockey stick on the conversations in the market that are allowing us really to build out this technology. So in another 120 days from today, I suspect we'll be well advanced of where we are today, both from a technical infrastructure perspective, conversations in the market, and I remain confident that we'll have these partnerships in place to some measure within calendar year 2025. So how was that for a long way of answering a very simple question?
Yeah. Well, so you were a very, very helpful person, I think, just in general, very friendly. I remember the first time I met you, you asked about what we were working on, and you're like, follow up with me. If you don't follow up with me, I'll follow up with you, right? And you gave some great suggestions. But you said something while you were talking about the tech build, and I think if I understand Parametric correctly, you're kind of talking about notices to prior to events, potential loss events taking place to policyholders. You're going to pay out no matter what. But I think your partners might be the ones that would really be accretive to that loss going out the storm is coming. It's maybe a bad example, but batten down the hatches, do whatever you have to do to protect your home. You guys are going to pay out, if that trigger takes place, but your partner is probably getting some benefit from, hopefully people taking some actions. And the advance warning that maybe you have data on and you can be supportive of. So I think your helpfulness is, and maybe NormanMax is already like this, but it's definitely, showing through in the culture and how you guys are building all of this. Peter loves to end the show on a question that I think is great. Before we get there, Samuel, I've had a great time getting to know you. The couple times we've interacted. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you, just like kind of what you do on your off time, what you do for fun. We're down the road from each other. We'll meet up at some point. But what are you doing like on the weekends in Connecticut, hanging out? Like what are you good at?
It's funny. I was asked this question recently as well, and I probably need to do a little bit of time coming up with a better answer. I'm a boring person, actually. I love to read. I think that it's just great time. I've been not as religious around it recently, just because I've been getting up early and doing other things. But for me, there was like no better way to start a morning, spending an hour or 2 hours reading something. Typically for me, they're business oriented, or maybe a nonfiction that is around a business topic, right? So I like to read, of course. I love cars. I love going to car shows. Both my boys are into cars as well. I'm aspirational. I don't have anything amazing today, but in fact, just have this amazing affinity for really fun, exotic cars. So that's always been a kind of a passion of mine, if you will.
Wait. What's the dream car? What is the absolute money there's no constraints. There's only 3 of them in the world. That's fine. What's the dream car?
Yeah, I think, it's a funny thing. Like if money is no constraint, what would you take? What would you want? Like, you would expect maybe to come back with an answer like, I want this Bugatti, or I want this Wyra. They only have so many in the world. But no, for me, it's just like a simple, fun Porsche, or a simple maybe Ferrari would be the dream car. Now, mind you, those are not cheap cars, so money is an object for sure. So
it's funny with the suit. I was thinking you're a Chiron guy, so I get it. That's perfect.
Yeah, for sure. So love cars. That's a good hobby and a passion, of course. And you're going to find this funny. I love to do what I do. And I spend a lot of time on this business, in this ecosystem, making sure I'm engaged. You might have heard me say before in the past, it's a very big business with a small community. And I love engaging in this community. It's just an absolute blast. And the other thing I'm fond of, and I tell my boys all the time, now they're grown, they're in their 20s or out of undergraduate school. You have to be interested to be interesting. Like, be interested in other people. Like, you'd be surprised who you get to meet if you're open to a conversation. I was at a point in my career once where I just wasn't engaged to the level I am today, because I thought to myself, I had such a thick bias, like, I'm going to have this conversation. It's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to put this time and effort into it, and it's going to be stopped. I stopped thinking like that. And I've engaged with as many people as I possibly can to learn from them. And I'm shocked about the value of those conversations, the friendships that have been created, the opportunity that's been created either for myself or, more importantly, for others, and really the power in helping other people. I think that's what this business is really all about. Mm-hmm. So I'm a geek, a real student of the business. I just absolutely love it. So I do spend quite a bit of my time on kind of the topic and where I am today in my career. And I recognize that what I want to achieve and the benefits I want to have for society are very, very large. So it takes a lot of time and effort to make those things happen. And, is this going to be a feature you find in every single homeowner's policy and commercial property policy in the country in the next 5 years? Maybe not. But I'm not starting with maybe not. I'm starting, how might we? And looking up as opposed to looking down. So that takes a lot of time, talent, and treasure. I spend a lot of time in that regard. And I find it really, really fun. So maybe it is true that if you love what you do, you don't actually work. I love what I do. I love the people I get to interact with. I have a full, rich life that way. And that's where I spend most of my time. So I got to give that some more thinking, maybe do some more things outside.
No, Sam. No, don't apologize. Don't apologize. I get you. I tell people I only read nonfiction. I don't read any fiction books. I get I get crap from my friends about that regularly. I don't normally broadcast that, but since you just did, you've made me feel empowered to say it. And doing what you love, it's great. That's a beautiful thing. So don't ever apologize for that. That sounds like those are great hobbies.
The bad answer is I watch 8 hours of Netflix when I get you're
exactly.
doing well.
Okay.
Listen, I think everybody's entrepreneurs here, and I think the people listening to this show, like they are as well. And you put the time into the business, but like you said, when I go to a conference, I'm seeing my friends, I'm meeting new people that I hopefully can do some business with at some point. But if not, we just hang out and have a good time, break some bread, have some drinks, catch up on what's going on, record really bad podcasts that will never see the light of day because our audio was so terrible. But Sam, that's great. Peter, this is a great segue, I think, into the legacy question.
I feel Sam answered a lot of it so well. And before we do that, Dylan, I have to go quick fire question to you. What would your car be? Because I'm sure you've given it thought.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to say something just absolutely terrible, but I already have my dream car. I absolutely love a Tundra truck. I've got my Tundra, and out of all the cars in the world, I find if I'm in fast cars, I go fast. And if I'm in a very large vehicle, I have no desire to go speeding off, and I will take a giant, slightly jacked up truck because I live in Virginia and I have a cabin and it's all off road. It's miles of off road that I go on, and I actually use my truck, and it is absolutely my favorite vehicle.
I think NormanMax should send you some royalty checks for helping to contribute to potential increased risk in the climate space there.
Of course, it has very low mileage because I don't drive it too much. So how about that?
Dylan's living the dream. It's great.
I am.
All right, Sam. So as Doug alluded to, we end the show with perhaps a grandiose question about legacy, and you've talked so much about that. So I'd love to hear, how do you want to be remembered in this space? What things would you like to leave as your legacy?
Yeah, that's a deep question.
It is.
I think what's most important for me personally is, finding a way to help other people. I think, the insurance industry sometimes has a negative reputation. I've heard a couple people, not a lot of people, talk about the business as sexy. I tend to believe it's very sexy, and if it's not, you're probably not doing it right. It's provided immense opportunities for me and my family. It's allowed me to help other people. I think, as I think about the journey I'm on today and the work that I'm doing with the fabulous team at NormanMax Insurance Solutions and our partners at Syndicate 3939, we have a real opportunity to change the tone and tenor of how people view insurance. We have an opportunity to both act and react relative to some of the events we're seeing a greater frequency and severity of in the country. We have the ability to help other insurance companies increase their attraction and retention and perception with their customers, whether it's distribution partners or end consumers. And my goal is to create this end product, this demand-driven offering that allows people to close the gap and help them during their time of need. No one wants to go through a natural catastrophe, and at the same point in time, no insured wants to collect a loss and no company wants to pay a claim, right? I think if you can find a way to mitigate those two factors and put people in a better situation, that could have externalities beyond the insurance industry. So I hope the work that I'm doing today is making our business better. I hope I'm doing it in a way that's collaborative and thoughtful and is inclusive, that brings other people into the conversation. And at the same point in time, creates these externalities. So when there are challenging times in the country, and there always will be, how can we as an organization, as a collective community, make that better? I think that's what I want to be remembered for. I've had the opportunity to create some interesting products in the past around equipment breakdown for homeowners. I did some work around some violence products for society as well as for businesses. But I think this solution, making these traditional products, which no one wants to buy, better, more reactive, and more thoughtful, I think will have a societal benefit that'll be beyond my ability to calculate what that is. So that's kind of my thoughts around the business. It's one of otherness, and I want to be remembered for helping others make their lives better through this amazing vehicle of insurance and reinsurance that I'm so blessed to be a part of.
Beautiful.
Very cool.
It's great.
Well, hey, Sam, thank you. You've been very generous with your time today. I want to thank you for joining us. This has been great. Very, very excited for others to take a listen to this. And yeah, looking forward to continuing to get to know you. We'd love to have you back on. Well, maybe not on the 240-day anniversary, but let's see where you guys are a couple years from now. If you have time for us, you might be you're a little busy as you continue to grow this.
I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. Thanks for making the time. I think it's absolutely amazing. Like, was this meant to be? We all were together literally a week and a half ago. I met Dylan for the first time waiting for a car. Peter and I connected actually talking about the business, talking about
yeah,
Lloyd.
Absolutely.
Doug, you and I had a couple conversations, but of course spent some more quality time together while we were together in Columbus.
Yeah.
Like, how could that possibly have been? And then I was reaching out to Dylan. I'm like, hey, Dylan, we should have a chat, get together, just catch up on some things you're working on. He goes, well, you're on my podcast this week. I'm like, oh, so
that was this weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, happy to say hi, guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Sam. Love the time.
Chat with you later, Sam. Good to see you.
Okay, cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, guys, that was amazing.
Wealth of knowledge. And so collaborative.
I learned a lot. I know very little, but so it's always a low bar. But the complexity of what they're doing, and Sam keeping it all together is amazing, and how quickly they're doing it. I mean, it sounds like they have some real power forces behind them, but to have that kind of success that quickly, with what they're working on, and very ambitious as well, kind of talking about where his journey's been so far and what he plans in a very short period of time. Very cool stuff.
We should schedule him now for 5 years out when he's saying maybe we don't have it embedded into every homeowner's policy in 5 years. So it's like, hey, well, let's check in 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
He seems to be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Yep. I marked the age of the MGA calendar with the 24th of February as well, because that's Sam's birthday according to his calculations. So
okay. We'll send him some stuff. We got to get on our swag, guys. I got a nice box of swag from somebody where it was they did it right. We're getting there. We'll figure it out.
Okay, I know who you're talking about, and he is the king of podcast swag. If we're talking about the same person.
Yeah, David Carruthers, running a very interesting, brokerage focused. His background is it Florida Risk Partners, right? Power Producers Podcast. Little plug there. Great show to listen to. I think for anyone, but especially if you're an agent or a broker.
Well, what a way to come back as the age of the MGA. Hey, after a couple of weeks off the air, we get a great guest, and we've more to come, right? We're recording all this week and next week.
We got a lot of recordings coming up right now. We should quick plug for Lloyd's lab. I think the applications are open until Peter's at late July, maybe.
It's a good question. They're suddenly open now. I'm not sure when the close date is.
We should have him on the show, though. I think is Rosie still running it? She'd be great
Rosie's
to talk
still here.
about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Talk about the MGAs that they're bringing on.
Make that happen. That'd be great.
I'll make it happen. We could do it in conjunction with one or two of them that are in this year's cohort.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Also, we want to say to our few listeners, Doug, wait, who was the one listener?
I did. You know what?
Hey,
who was it?
2 or 3 people came up to me and were aware of it.
Yeah, they were.
You know what? I'm not going to give their name because they're still working on some stuff. They do want to come on the show. We'll chat about it then. But,
okay, all right. Very secret.
No, it's great conversation. Randomly somebody reaches out, and I get on with them and having a nice chat. I'm just like, how did you come across us? He's like, I'm your one listener. I was like, oh, well played, sir. Well played. And then his co-founder comes on, and during the conversation, very nice people, but they're very playful with each other, I think. And so every time, I don't know, some subject would come up, and the co-founder that listened would go to the other co-founder. If you listen to the show, they actually talked about this, and you wouldn't waste Doug's time telling you. I was like, whoa. Nice.
Well,
so we have 2 listeners now.
We had more votes than that on LinkedIn, and one of the things that it seems people want to hear from founders of MGAs and they want to hear from capacity reinsurance. And so we've heard you loud and clear. We're going to get some capacity providers, fronting carriers, reinsurers on. We are working on scheduling those now. And,
by force, Dylan, right? I think you're capturing some people and just making them come on the show.
Rounding them up in my big truck. Yeah.
We should get Ron Rock
Get him in
with
the
his
Tundra.
Startup bus to help us.
I like it. Yeah. He'll capture the New York audience, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, another great show, guys. So more to come soon.
Chat with you all later. Thank you for listening.
Thanks all.
Take care.